Hey, I'm Slash, and I'm chilling with Gary Cool.
You're originally from the UK. Does it feel great when you come here? Does it feel like it's home, or is it just a special place?
No, well, I mean, I've got family here. I'm here a lot. But yeah, I have a certain affinity for my British roots and so on.
Where does the UK rank in places to tour for you?
It's one. I mean, I'd have to say. I mean, I love touring and I love playing everywhere. But there's a certain sort of homecoming kind of feeling to playing in the UK. Always has been. I mean, the first international show I ever did was here in London.
Awesome.
A couple of nights at the Marquee.
Yeah.
So there's a certain kind of homebound feeling.
Your new album, World on Fire, which is set for release in September, has been described as diverse. Can you elaborate on what we can expect from this album?
I don't. It's hard for me to ever put a verbal description on a record or on body of work, because it's no matter how you look at it, it's very limiting. But it's a hard rock record. It is diverse. It does cover a wide range of feels within the sort of hard rock genre.
Yeah.
But it's a hard hitting record. It's very energetic. And I mean, my best advice would be just listen to it.
Awesome. You recorded the overdubs and vocals at Elvis Liberace's studio. How was it to work with?
He was fucking phenomenal. He did the last three, I guess it was the last three Alter Bridge records.
Yeah.
And I the last one was just sonically, the bass and drums just floored me. I thought, this sounds amazing. And I had to find a producer because the producer we worked with previously wasn't available. So I asked Myles about Mike, and so you got to talk to him. I had to find somebody who knew how to record tape, because a lot of contemporary producers don't know the first thing about tape.
Yeah.
And so I talked to Mike, and he actually started out as a tape engineer, so that was a plus. And then we had a conversation about recording guitars, because that's another thing that producers are way off the mark on these days.
Yeah.
And so we had a really inspired conversation about guitars, and we went in the studio, and he's just a fucking incredibly gifted producer from technical side of things, also from a very organic, like his ear is really good. But he's also a really hard worker, and very rarely is there anybody that can push me, because I work really hard as it is. But he was the one guy that I've worked with that would even take me to my hill,
Yeah.
And it was a great experience, and I would definitely work with him on the next one.
Brilliant. The new album artwork designed by Ron English looks amazing. Your dad was an album artist, album cover artist.
Actually, my dad art directed my first Snake Pit record.
Yes.
Yeah, but he was an album cover designer for all my young years when I was. That's actually why he moved from the UK to America.
Wow.
So
he did Neil Young's Crazy Horse.
He did Crazy Horse. He did all Joni Mitchell's records back then.
And having that background, do you find that you get more involved in the packaging of your album more than other artists?
I've always been that guy anyway. Maybe that's where it comes from.
Yeah.
But I started out, before I ever picked up a guitar, primarily as an illustrator, so I draw.
Wow.
And so I always get into designing the logo and the this and that for whatever band. And so the album cover is really important. But I was like, trying to find the right artwork and all that kind of stuff can be very, very time consuming, but it has to be done right.
Yes, I agree. Before collaborating with someone or working with other artists or bands, do personalities and person's demeanor play a big role in who you decide to work with?
What happens is, I know it sounds silly, but all the collaborations that I've done with different artists over the years, with the exception of my solo record, because that was different. But all that stuff is just spontaneous. It just comes from hanging out at a pub or hanging out at a party, or just meeting and then having that conversation, like-mindedness about music, and then wanting to do something together and actually doing it. Because LA is famous for people going, hey, let's do lunch, and it never happens.
Nothing happens, yeah.
But I love playing with different people and adapting to different people's whatever their working environment is, or their style, or whatever. I think it really rounds me out, and it keeps you humble.
Yes, I agree.
When working on a solo record like that first one, then I wrote the music and thought, you know, like who should sing this song or who should sing. Then I had to go out and actually make phone calls and say, hey, I'm doing this record, would you be interested? And so there's two different sides to that.
Now, Dave Grohl is another musician who collaborates with a lot of people.
I love Dave. He played on my first record. But he is the quintessential sort of keeper of the flame as far as, you know, like rock and roll, the spirit of just jamming and being a good rounded musician, and he's a great songwriter, fucking incredible drummer.
Yes.
And so I've worked with him a couple times. I played with him, a bunch of times. And he's somebody that, if we've talked about it, you know, his kids used to go to the same school as my kids, or my kids used to go to the same school as his. And so I see him on occasion, and he's somebody that if I was doing a project that called for, you know, some great drums or whatever, I would definitely give him a call. Yeah.
Awesome. I asked a band a question not so long ago, and they got a great dynamic in the band.
Right.
So I asked them the question: if you had to decide or choose to be in a band where it's the world's greatest band, but there's one or two people that you don't get on with, or a mediocre band with a bunch of guys that you love, which would you choose? And they all chose the world's greatest band.
Yeah,
what if I had to ask you that question, say like in 1984, would your answer be different to what it is now?
I have no idea what I would say in 1984. I'd be fucking 1984. I would just be happy to be in any band. Right?
Yeah.
You know, the way that I see it now, with all the different experiences that I've had, to work in a band where everybody gets on is way more gratifying than working in the hugest band with the biggest problems.
Yeah. And one question that I have to ask you: will you be touring South Africa soon?
Yeah, we're working with our mutual friend Andy to go over there next year.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
For sure. I mean, I always wanted to go there anyway, and then we had the opportunity to go with the Kings of Chaos, and I brought Myles with me, and we had a fucking great time. The crowd was insane, you know. So.
And how was it? You went with your family. How was going into the bush and
it was actually. I'm a big animal fanatic, so I've been to East Africa before and to these 2-week-long excursions in the bush. Yeah. And I didn't have family back then, so I really roughed it, you know. But it was interesting to take your wife and your kids and have to watch out for them in that sort of context. But we stayed in an actual, like, I don't like hotels out there. I like to pitch tents and do it that way. But all things considered, we did find a really cool hotel right outside of Kruger National Park. And we had a blast, and the kids really dug it.
Awesome. And is it a place that the kids and the wife have to go to again?
I think so, yeah. Probably a different time of year. It was really cold at that time of year. So we get up at 5 in the morning and go out looking for stuff, and they're like, fuck this. I said, no, we're going to go find some leopards. Yeah, we can see leopards at the zoo.
Brilliant. You're very into social media, and you embrace technology. I've been checking a lot of interviews with you, and you send files to Myles, and Myles works on it and sends back to you. And have you ever thought of, you know, I know you're looking for a vocalist for Velvet Revolver, have you ever thought of holding auditions on YouTube, or do you think it'll just be too ridiculous and too many man-hours to
Well, I mean, before we started working with Scott, we held auditions back then, and we everything was on, at that time, was on CD that we would get. Yeah. And we would get probably a couple hundred submissions a week.
Wow.
And we did that 6 days a week for 10 months. And I never want to have to go through that experience again. Yeah. I mean, there has to be some sort of filtering system, because a lot of people just don't take it seriously. They just want to do it for the hell of it, blah, blah, blah. And for Velvet Revolver, I think probably the best way of going about it is just hearing through the grapevine, or personally experiencing somebody that just hits the mark. You know?
Does that question get annoying after a while? When's Velvet Revolver going to get back together?
It goes with the territory. I mean, obviously it's not broken up. It's just sort of in a state of dormancy. And so whenever the right guy, everybody's too busy to be trying to fucking check people out every single day and so on and so forth. So when the question comes up, it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
But if you could choose any vocalist out there, just on the top of your head, even if he or she is in the band, who would you go for?
I've done that already. We've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of people we've tried out that we don't talk about.
Uh-huh.
But there's just nobody at the more that time passes, the less rock and roll singers it seems to be, like that style of just really sort of from the heart, guttural rock and roll. It seems to be just getting more and more glossed up, or it seems like everybody's. I mean, you look at American Idol, right? And they do the rock singer bit.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember in the first few years it was around, and these singers just don't sound like rock and roll singers to me. So, it's hard to say exactly. It's something I'll know it when I hear it.
Well, Dave Grohl once said that there's no such thing as a guilty pleasure. There's just pleasure. And he was talking about Gangnam Style and also One Direction. Do you agree? What's your take on like One Direction and
there's a thing online that is a whole two or three paragraphs that supposedly I said about One Direction.
Oh yeah.
People post it all the time. It's got a picture of me. I've never heard One Direction until just recently. I saw them on Saturday Night Live. I don't judge.
Yes.
I don't agree. Musically, it doesn't do anything for me. But I'm not going to sit here and knock them. Or spend a lot of energy talking badly about different people that I don't listen to. I mean, it's none of my business.
I agree.
Until my kids start listening to it.
It becomes an issue. Cool stuff. Yeah. Thank you so much for chatting to us, Slash. And South Africa are really excited to have you back.
For sure.
Brilliant.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.